Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Welcome, everyone. Still winter here in Alachua. Yeah. So I had found out this morning that there's a lot more. There's a lot more to discuss. Whoa, 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 whoa. There's a lot. Well, there's a lot more to discuss about Yogamaya. So I thought on Wednesday maybe we would have one more class on Yogamaya, but now I realize that there's a lot to say. Some of which will be repetitive, and some of which will be new, and some of which will be, well, I would say repetitive will mean that it's a new angle on things we've discussed, subtleties. It's going to be nice. And so we're now in the Krishna book. So in the Krishna book, of course, we went through the Bhagavatam already. So the Krishna book is the Bhagavatam, 10th canto. So we're going to hear some similar things that we've read before, but slightly from a different perspective. And then from there, we've already gone through the CC and Bhagavatam. From there, we start going through Prabhupada's lectures, where he talks about Yogamaya. So the document we're reading from is now up to 38 pages. And I've investigated half the sightings on the word Yogamaya from the Veda base, although the other half, there'll be more redundancy. So I don't expect that there will be as many references. But still, it just means we're going to get into this topic a little more. And as I'm reading it, I see what's happening with Yogamaya is really Krishna. It's an energy of Krishna that he uses in many ways. And sometimes we're trying to pinpoint exactly how Krishna uses Yogamaya, exactly what she does, but there's so many nuances to what she does and subtleties, and sometimes confusing how the same Yogamaya is bewildering a devotee and it's bewildering a non-devotee. And how Mahamaya bewilders a devotee, but how Yogamaya also, Mahamaya bewilders a non-devotee, and how Yogamaya also bewilders non-devotees, when we had originally thought, or most of us thought, that Yogamaya is the energy which connects one to Krishna, but it's actually a bewildering energy, which connects one to Krishna, but it also covers Krishna for those who want to be covered. So there's subtle differences between how Maya works on the devotee and how Yogamaya works on the devotee. So we've learned some of those, and we're going to clarify some more of those. Hare Krishna. And first we will sing the holy names. That is our sacred duty. Isn't it? I want to put on my headphones so I can hear properly. Krishna Govinda, Hari Murari, He Nata Narayana Bhaja Vasudeva. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Yes. When you look at those books, do you think, I wonder if he's read all those books? Whenever I see a big bookshelf, that's not even that big. We have 2 more bookshelves in the house. Whenever I see a bookshelf, I always think, has he read all those books? Especially when there's vast amounts of bookshelves. And the answer is probably, for most people, yes, they have. And the answer for me here is maybe. I've read most of them. Do I remember what I read? Not exactly. Do I practice everything? I try, because why read if you don't practice? I was thinking today, I'm giving a summary of Bhagavad Gita, first 6 chapters. And it's so important when you study to apply. And I was thinking, I asked you, what did you do today? And you said, today I went to the gym. And I said, what did you do there? I said, well, they showed me all the exercise equipment and they showed me all the exercises, so I know what to do. Did you do any exercise? No, but I know what to do. Can you relate to that? I know what to do. Great. And you're still fat and unhealthy because you never use the exercise equipment, although you know how to do it. So that's the key. Going from knowledge into daily application. That's the challenge. But anyway, the holy name will help us. So let's do something different today. Variety is the spice of life. Radha. Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Suranandana Brajajana Ranjana Suranandana Brajajana Ranjana Suranandana Brajajana Ranjana Suranandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Shodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Shodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Shodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Ramo Ramo Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Radha Madhava Kunjavi Hari, Radha Madhava Kunjavi Hari, Gopi Gopi Janavallabha Giridharadhari, Gopi Janavallabha Giridharadhari, Govinda. Sorry about that. An abrupt ending. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. I just have to leave a message. Might be like it's about a class we're giving today. So 1 minute. Yes. They told me to give class at 1:15 my time, and I thought, no, it's 12:15 my time. And I was correct. They had made a mistake. So I just have to correct it, and we will be fine. I think there's a private class. I don't think they want you to come. It's like a club they have, a Bhagavad Gita club. And they want me to summarize the first 6 chapters. So if you're wondering what I'm going to say, I can tell you right now what I'm going to say. I am going to say, that what Arjuna faced was death. And normally when we face death, we face the loss of friends and loved ones. But Arjuna's situation is different because he had to kill them. That's nothing we would ever have to do, or most people will never have to do that. Correct? I don't think you'll ever have to kill your friends. Well, unless you're in the military. But other than that, you're fine. So that's what Arjuna had to do. That was difficult. So so Krishna is like helping Arjuna cope. So, he's coping with something really difficult, and we're all coping. And so we're going to be talking about how to cope. Well, a little bit how to cope. So, and different strategies that Krishna, if you look in you could look at Bhagavad Gita as a strategies for coping. And one of the things we've spoken about before is that one of the coping strategies is duty, like always being responsible. So no matter what happens, you stick to your duty, and your duty is your stability, your duty of your ashram, your duty of your varna, no matter how the world shakes you. Because, often when things are difficult, we feel like giving up, isn't it? So when you're attached to duty, that keeps you stable. And your sadhana is it's like we all miss Vrindavan, we all miss Mayapur. Well, our sadhana is like going to Mayapur, going to Vrindavan, going to our holy place. So sadhana, especially japa, study, it's like we're transcending this world. And from sadhana, we get strength to deal with this world, because from that place, that centeredness, that's our home. The spiritual world is our home. And so that connection with that home, and the connection with, I have to change my internet. Sorry. The connection with that, for one moment. I think we figured out the internet problem, but it doesn't automatically go on because I have another internet in the house, and then I have to switch internets, and I didn't remember. Okay. So now we're officially on the new one, which is, I got it to work better. I think, I hope. We'll see. Maybe, maybe not. Doesn't look like it's working better, but maybe it's the adjustment from one to the other. So, stability, sadhana is the place we go to create stability. Dharma, duty, is as we go out in the world. It creates stability, being steady. Sometimes devotees get married and they can't do full-time service, but you notice that they actually mature, because as devotees, they did a few hours of service. They kind of, slept whenever they wanted, and kind of did service they wanted when they wanted. Brahmachari life is not, it's not like the military, and it's not like even having a job. And one of my godbrothers, when he started developing a business, he said, I think a lot of devotees would do well to work outside because they tend to be lazy, and you can't be lazy out there. You'll get fired. So there is a lot to be said about the maturity or the qualities that develop in a person who's steady. And then another quality of coping, a coping mechanism, is responsibility. And I was just reading the first chapter of the Gita today, and it is so, one thing that's so interesting that I didn't really pay attention to was all the arguments that Arjuna is giving, Krishna doesn't accept. But most of those arguments, I think all except one in the first chapter, Prabhupada delineates. They're all dharmic arguments. They're like, it's not like Arjuna's saying the wrong thing. Only one thing he said was wrong. It was an indication of some ignorance or some false compassion. I mean, you could say all of it was an indication of ignorance or false compassion in the context of devotion to Krishna. But in the material context, it wasn't. And in some purports, Arjuna is being glorified for being compassionate, and Krishna is chastising him for being compassionate. And the arguments he's giving about varnashram, they're, moral arguments, dharmic arguments, varnashram arguments. And Prabhupada is elaborating in the purport about those arguments. He's not denying them. He's explaining why they're true. And then Krishna throws all those arguments out, even though most of them in and of themselves were true. And as you may remember in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is chastised for his compassion, but at the same time, Prabhupada glorifies him for his compassion. So his compassion is a good quality, but it was irresponsible in that situation. His arguments, varnashram, and the other arguments he was making were valuable and true, but in that context, they were irresponsible. Interesting, right? So what is right and wrong is contextual. It's not necessarily always right. The context can change what's right. Killing is bad, but in that context, it was necessary. It was good. Compassion is always good. In that context, the compassion was misplaced because it was interfering with his duty. So the compassion was undermining his duty. So is compassion always good? Not always. Not if it undermines your duty. Is dharma always good? Not if it undermines your duty. If there's a higher duty and you stick to a lower duty, then it's not good. So you could say, therefore, Arjuna was shirking his responsibility, and then later he told Krishna, I'll live by begging, which was, in and of itself was noble act. I'll let them have the kingdom, and we'll live without it. We'll be okay. But in that context, he was giving up his duty as a Kshatriya. So then Krishna said, no, you can't give up your duty. That's bad. So, responsibility. So responsibility and duty, they're similar, but when we become unstable, when we become irresponsible, because we're afraid to face, or we find it difficult to face what we need to face. And we often want to blame our failures on situations or people. So then we become unsteady, and then we give in to our failures because we have an excuse or we have a reason. It's the fault of this or the fault of that person. So these are some of the meditations I had this morning. So the last one, which I alluded to, was the assimilation factor, the going to the gym and learning all the exercises, learning how to use the equipment, and then never going back to the gym. Oh, yeah, the gym. Yeah, I know. What do you know about the gym? I know everything about the gym. Well, then why are you overweight? Oh, I don't go to the gym. You know Bhagavad Gita? Yes, I've memorized it. Why are you in Maya? I guess I don't apply it. So, although this is common sense, one of the one of the things we find is that the reason we don't apply it is because it's not always easy to apply. Or plainly, we don't want to apply it because it interferes with our sense gratification. And who wants to do something that interferes with their sense gratification? So as devotees, most people who become devotees are very thoughtful people. They thought a lot about life. They thought a lot. They had a lot of questions. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? What should I do with my life? And we go to classes, which is basically philosophy, and we like it, and we talk a lot about the philosophy. Sometimes we can talk all day about philosophy, and we like it, which is good, but it has a potential problem. We can like it so much that we'd rather talk about it than do it. And that's why Prabhupada called academics who don't practice what they teach armchair philosophers. You can talk about so many things, but what are you doing yourself? So that's the idea. Like, we don't want to get caught in that trap. And it's an easy trap to get caught in, a very easy trap. And as I've said before, one of the reasons we get caught in it is, and it's in a sense innocent, because sometimes it's difficult to understand that I don't understand something when I do understand it. And let me explain that so you will understand what I just said. What did I just say? I said it's difficult to understand that you don't understand when you understand. That means I understand it intellectually. But if I'm not practicing it, then like you ask a child, okay, do you understand that you have to clean your room today? Yes, I understand. And then you come back in the evening and it's dirty. And then you say, I thought you understood. Yeah, I understand. I know that's what you want me to do. I understood that I'm supposed to clean my room. I just didn't do it. But I understood that's what I'm supposed to do. So what's your problem? You asked me if I understood. I did. I totally understood. I just didn't do it. But I understood I was supposed to. So sometimes that happens for us. You read something, you get it, you hear a class, and you totally understand it. And you think, I've got this. I know this. When actually all we know is the intellectual side of it. But it hasn't trickled down into my life, into my action. So that's the big, we can call it the big gray area of spiritual life. And sometimes it's actually difficult to understand that you understand something, but you don't understand it. Sometimes it's really because, no, I understand it. I know I'm not the body. I totally understand. Well, if you're not the body, why did you eat 12 times today? And why did you sleep for 10 hours? No, I understand totally. I'm not the body. I'm consciousness. I'm within the body. Body's like a vehicle. Or body's like clothes. You change clothes, change your body, And, it's the activating force. It's the consciousness where, like I'm aware of my, well, why did you eat 10 times and sleep for 12 hours? I have to think about that one. I guess you're trying to say, I really understand I'm not the body. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Not trying to say, that's what I did say. So, like that. I don't know if this event is scheduled because I haven't even got the Zoom link, and I think it's a private class for this group. Some things I do are private. They're not people are not paying, but it's just a private group. And if you're really dying, sometimes you can ask me and I can sneak you in, like I snuck Gabriella in. But sometimes, for service, you need to hear something I'm teaching because you're also teaching it. So then I sneak you in the back door. Okay, but so that's basically what I would talk about today. So now you don't have to come and waste an hour and a half. You got it all in 20 minutes, 15 minutes. But this point about this point of application, it's the real, it's sometimes an incredible challenge to actually realize, and it seems so simple, that we're not applying things that we think we are because we understand them. And it's, there's this fine line between intellectual understanding and practice. Well, this phenomenal internet is performing phenomenally bad this morning. But I guess you can still hear me even if I freeze, right? Yeah, it's freezing quite often. This is very discouraging. I'm going to step out for a minute and cry. The only way you get good internet around here is to move into the city. Anyway, they promise something better, but it's moving slow. We're dependent on technology. And, okay. Anandita says, Arjuna's misplaced compassion relates to taking into account Kaladesha, Patra, time, place, and circumstance when we take decision. Yeah, just like in the, we're having class the other day, and one of the persons in the class was talking about conforming or being independently minded and independently thoughtful and not just letting people think for you, not following the masses the way they think. So he was asking me about that. Is that the correct way to, is that correct? We should be independent thinkers. Conforming is bad. And I said basically the same thing that we're talking about today. I said, well, is that conformity taking you closer to Krishna or further away? Because conformity in and of itself, it could be, in some situations, could be considered good or could be considered bad. Being independently thoughtful could be considered good or bad, and depending on where that independent thought takes you. Where do you end up independently thoughtful? If you end up not following all the blind sheep, yeah, that's good. But if you end up not following all the sadhus back to Godhead, that's bad. Your independent thoughtfulness gets you in trouble. So if you always evaluate everything in terms of how is this helping my service, or how is this helping my spiritual progress, then what's good and what's bad becomes obvious, right? Is getting married good or is it bad? Well, it depends. Is it going to help you or is it going to harm you? Is taking sannyas good or bad? Well, it depends. Is it going to help you or harm you? So in and of itself, you could say sannyas is good, but it wasn't good for everybody. In and of itself, you could say grihastha life, it's a dark well. But for everyone, it's not a dark well. For many people, it's not even a well. It's a bright light in the ocean of varnashram. And it actually saves them. It stabilizes them. So is it good or bad? Well, that only depends on how it's helping or hindering your bhakti. And then, something good can hinder your bhakti if you do it wrong. Like if you chant the holy name in the wrong way to gain some false prestige, for example, then although the holy name is good, because it's applied in the wrong way, then it has a bad result. So can you say chanting Hare Krishna is bad? For some people it is. Or they're chanting to become Krishna. Or they have the wrong conception of Krishna. Or they chant with the wrong motive. So it's bad. Ooh, I could reset the internet, but then during that period you would lose me. Although I could go, let's do an experiment. Are you into experiments?